You can get the slides going. All right, so today I hope to provide an overview for those of you who might not know what SkyUX is and what the design system can provide to both internal developers and non-technical consumers. We'll also touch on what we see as values adds to our shared users who might be navigating between user experiences created by both Blackbaud or by you. And then lastly, I want to go into more detail around what we have specifically been doing around the component library, which is the technical Angular component implementation of our design system, and what values you can find. Right. So what does SkyUX provide? So as I said, I wanted to ground this update in the component library of SkyUX and the design system more holistically. So the goal of the design system is to provide proven design patterns and implementation strategies that provide a framework for a cohesive experience across all applications. So we really want to make sure that the foundational questions are answered so that developers and designers can focus on the problems directly related to their users. So where we can, we simplify usage decisions so that you don't have to think about things like, what color should I make my button? And if I make it this color, what are the impacts of text on top of it so that the color contrast ratio meets accessibility requirements? We want to help take some of those just easy to answer questions out of conversation and really allow you to focus on the design impact. So the design system also looks to standardize larger interactions of workflows, things like overarching page design for record pages or list pages, or interactions like when a user gets an alert and they know how to define how they know like where everything is because it's consistent. The alerts that are popping up in your application are similar to Blackbaud's. So I wanted to actually walk through our documentation site, and let's see if this is going to correctly open up. Just wanting to verify the URL I'm going to. All right. I'm excited. We have a recent update to our documentation site that I wanted to actually just walk through our documentation site as a way to kind of run through the different values we can provide as a design system. So if you haven't been over here, it's part of the developer platform at developer.blackbaud.com/SkyUX, and you can come over and see what we can provide. So SkyUX SkyUX design system is made up of three main parts. Our components that are essentially the building blocks that can be used to build user interactions. So if we go to our Lego analogy, that theme that we use across many previous product update briefings, these are the individual Lego pieces, the things that you use to build. You then have design guidelines, which set out strategies on how to build successful user workflows that empower users to know what they're supposed to take action for a given experience. These are obviously the Lego books that you follow with specifically building like a ship or a spaceship or whatever your favorite model was. It's the directions that you follow on how to put those blocks together. And then last, we have the styles, for which for most of us non-designers might be the most obvious part of the design system, things like color, font, and spacing standards. So to finish off our Lego analogy, the style of the design system is similar to deciding if you're going to build with the traditional brick set colors versus some of those new neon color sets. They contain the same blocks and you can use the same instructions, but the feel and the look of what you end up with at the end is different and noticeable. All right. So what do you get with SkyUX? Well, first things you should consider is that you're getting the power and time spent by Blackbaud in refining the best interaction patterns that drive impact and deliver outcomes. We put a lot of work internally to ensure that user interactions are the best they can be, and providing the design system as an open source tool means that you too can take advantage of this work at no cost. Other key areas of focus for us in building components and patterns that are accessible to users who navigate our products with different assistive technologies like screen readers and keyboard navigation, ensuring that there are consistency across our solutions, and providing all of that while trying to make sure that users of the design system are using their time efficiently and solving the important problems. So again, you're not having to think of some of those smaller questions that we can just solve for you. You can focus on the actual questions that are helping the users. All right, and important for this audience is the call out that Sky UX is part of the Sky developer platform. So along with Sky add-ins and Sky API, it's available to you to extend and customize Blackbaud products and solutions. So whether that's through add-ins and other tools that you might be using to have users navigate between our products and your products, you can utilize a similar look and feel so that users have that carried over throughout their workflows. So then last over here in our documentation, I just wanted to show you a few ways to utilize the design system. So going into our learned content, designers and developers tend to be our primary users we focus on. So as a designer, you're able to utilize the design principles and guidelines to assemble your components into a cohesive experience. And then as a developer, we provide our Angular components as a way to implement the designs. So I want to call out that, so if you're not an Angular developer, you use something else, React, Vue, whatever you do, plain HTML, you are able to utilize our components and style documentation to achieve similar experiences. So while you might not be pulling in the specific components, you're able to navigate around and find information that could help you build out. So if you go over into styles, you can see things like our standard colors, our typography, our spacing requirements, and all of these are providing things like pixel values and different hex codes so that you can get to the right setting and mimic Sky UX design so that that look and feel feels consistent to the user, even if you're not using our backend code. I was like, I would design. Also in our components, I wanted to call out our component documentation isn't just technical documentation. It provides that usage documentation of when to use specific pieces. It has interactive demos, so you can see specific examples of the component. You can inspect them and pull out all the goodness you want to if you want to recode them yourself as opposed to using Angular. And then you have information as far as design, the API available for the component, as well as our testing and test harness availability and code examples that you can run out into Stack Blitz and play with. So all of that is available for our components as part of our documentation site. All right, now I'm going to find our slide deck. Great. Click. All right. So like I was mentioning, so what is the value add? Why would you use Sky UX for your projects? Really, we want to see what is the value for our shared users, and having them have consistent user experiences across both of our experiences can lead to them to have a better understanding of what's expected from them. It can help reduce the friction as they navigate and interact between our solutions and yours. And it helps blur those lines as you extend workflows in and out of Blackbaud solutions. And then Blackbaud, and kind of like at the heart of it is Blackbaud users have been using our products for a long time. Whether they realize it or not, have learned to understand and expect certain interactions to happen. And so for Blackbaud users who have been using products who utilize Sky UX, those expectations are just kind of ingrained. So continuing to use those patterns help them to just know what's expected of them. All right, so after kind of a lengthy overview, I did want to get into some component updates. So these are specific to the Angular component libraries and what we have done, but can be valuable lessons to learn as far as just general standards. So our components, we adopted strict mode in our version 2 versions ago now, Sky UX 7. And so all of our components are compliant with strict mode, meaning that your project itself can have strict mode enabled and see success there. We also updated all of our components to have compliance with Axe Core version 4. So that's their latest library as far as accessibility tests go. We've added test harnesses to about a third of our components, and we'll continue to work on that, as you'll see in the next slide. For our major versions, we've created a compatibility style sheet. As the world keeps moving forward, one of the main things is making sure all of your dependencies and libraries are updated, and we don't want visual breaking changes to stand in the way of ensuring that we have secure code. So the compatibility style sheet allows for visual breaking changes to be adopted later, and the primary underlying Angular libraries can be updated right at that time that we release our latest version. We also now support Node 18 in SkyUX 8, which was just released this last month. And I think it's 3 versions since we last talked. I think we were just about to release SkyUX 6 last year at developer conference. So Node 18 is significantly faster, so it's exciting. With Angular 15 is when they finally had full support for Node 18, so we're in alignment there with them. And then implementation standards, we've been removing, we had kind of piecemealed component spacing underneath components, which made it confusing when applying spacing classes to our components. And then there were some times that you'd have to code a component one way for a visual theme. I mentioned in our last session how there are now 2 visual themes, and having to code one way versus another way for visual themes is not how we want to support components moving forward. So we've continued to resolve some of those. So up next for us, we're going to continue to design, build, test for accessibility. That's one of our primary focuses for the second half of 2023, is continuing to up our game as far as accessibility goes. So there's a number of WCAG 2.1 AA compliance issues that we are going to remediate, and then findings from other accessibility assessments that we'll remediate within our library. Like I mentioned, we'll continue to work on providing test harnesses so that consumers are able to create their test automation as you need. And then we're moving to a more predictable update schedule. So we're moving to biannual of SkyUX. So we just did our last release in March, and then we're going to hurry up and do another one here in September. Excuse me, we did our last release in May. We're hurrying up and doing one in September, and then the following March will be 6 months. So we'll go to a March and September major version release. So it's just more consistent. We were previously following Angular, but timing-wise, it's awkward because Angular tends to release in November around the holiday times and end of year, and who wants to be updating major versions at the end of the year? So we're consistent. We're going to have more consistency there. And then finally, so I mentioned our new visual theme. So we do have a new visual theme. It's very exciting. It's really foundationally ground up changes that our design team has worked on for many years now. It's exciting to talk about it here publicly in this space. You can actually, when I was navigating around the documentation site, I think I was in the new modern visual theme. So you've already seen it. You've seen it on the developer platform experience, on Marketplace, and through a number of places within inside of our products. So we have one of our designers joining us on Thursday, Theater 4, 2:35 Eastern. Be there. He's going to walk us through kind of some of the underlying why we did updates and what kind of was the thinking behind our visual updates. But then I'll also be going over kind of the technical, what that means for folks with add-ins and how to utilize the visual theme with inside your existing standalone applications or add-ins, and how that adoption of that theme will happen. All right. I think that's my last slide. It is. So I think I caught us back up to time, 4 minutes to spare.
Awesome. Yes, thank you very much. And just dropping a reminder for everybody, I'm going to be dropping the link for you guys to make sure to share your feedback, as it is highly important, since the top rated session will get a golden ticket for BBCon. So thank you, Kerry, for these awesome information that you share with us. And if you guys do have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I think we have a couple more minutes to tidy that up, and that's awesome.
And I can answer some questions. I don't know, Paul, if you want to raise your hand, if they can bring you to the stage, you can answer some of these. But to Jay's question, yes, we do use NX. We have a single mono repo in GitHub called SkyUX. You can check it out. It's also linked on our doc site.